All right, so today we're going to be talking about something very close to my heart, the cross.
Amen.
Woo!
Gotta love some wordplay. So to start off, I want some responses from y'all because, I don't want one-sided conversations. It's kind of awkward, you know what I mean? So, who knows what a nursery rhyme effect is? The nursery rhyme effect? No.
You go.
All right. So the nursery rhyme effect is when you are exposed to something so much that it sort of loses its meaning. So y'all heard of Three Blind Mice? Three blind mice, three blind mice. And then
See,
they got
Hallie,
their
Run.
tail cut off. And we sing this to children. And then we got Rock-a-bye baby in the treetop. When the wind blows, the cradle will rock. And then the bough breaks and the baby and all falls out of the tree. Like, what? I mean, that's just bad parenting. Who puts a cradle in a tree? And so I'll be talking about the nursery rhyme, the cross. So, back in Rome, what it meant was death. It meant torture. It meant something terrible. It's something you saw and you trembled. Because it was that bad. Because we think of it as like a sign of Christianity, it brings joy, it brings happiness. But back then, when someone saw it, they knew something bad was about to happen, something terrible. Because, let me just go through the cross, the crucifixion, like how it works. So, as Jesus went to Calvary, he first got whipped with the cat of nine tails, which is a leather-bound 9-string whip with metal intertwined in it. And so when they hit him with it, it not only put cuts, but the metal would dig in and rip out the skin. And so it started out with that. And then when they got to the cross, he was nailed onto it, and something that's been researched, it was this dude in the 1930s, and he researched crucifixion with corpses. Because it's really a mystery because there's no blueprint of how it went down. We just have written scripts and stuff. And so what they figured out is that the nail couldn't have gone through the palm because it would rip out the flesh. There's no bone right here. And so what had happened, the Latin word for hand, or not Latin, Greek, sorry. The Greek word for hand in this reference, it talks about the palm and the wrist. And the wrist is where the carpals are. It's all these tiny bones. And so that's where the nail would have gone, and that would have held him up like that. Without that, he would have fallen down off the cross. And so when he was up there, these nails were going right here through the medial nerve, which is a really big nerve going through the arm. And then his feet were crossed like this, as you've seen on depictions. There wasn't a little footstool under it, as some people see, because artists who painted have never seen a crucifixion when they did these things. And so, while they were up there, the nail going through their feet made it impossible to lock your knees. And so you couldn't just be there. You had to use your leg muscles to stand on a hole in your feet. And so the hamstrings would start to burn. And so, of course, you would try and put weight more on your hands. Then it goes through the medial nerve right there, which simulates egregious pain. And when you go down in this position, the diaphragm under your lungs starts to make a little gap, meaning it's incredibly hard to breathe. So it was a vicious cycle of holding yourself up with your hands and then propping yourself back up with the pain of the muscles to breathe. And so this happened for hours before someone died. And so it was a terrible cycle of pain that was crafted. And so this nursery rhyme effect of what I'm saying is, this used to be so terrible, but now we see it as something blissful, it's something nice that we see on someone, we put it on car windows, we put it on necklaces, everything. And so the question is why? How'd that happen? And so, let me just flip through. All right. So it says in Luke 9:23, if anyone desires to come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me. And so we start to see this symbolism pop up. This is Jesus speaking, by the way. And so we see the symbolism pop up. He brings it up as if it's not just for him. He's saying that you have to take up your cross. And I have one more, just a second. Got a bit of suspense. Okay, well, anyway, that's basically it. And so you would take up your cross. That's what he says, is if you want to follow me, you have to take up your cross. Well, what does that mean? You've probably heard that before, yeah?
Yep.
Yeah. And so taking up your cross, well, let's look at what happened to him. When he was up there was a mocker, and he said, well, if you can destroy the temple and build it back in 3 days, you're God's son. Just get down. And you're thinking, well, that sounds pretty legit. But he couldn't, because in that moment, that's what tore the veil in the temple. And what that means is in the temple, you had this veil that separated a room for the holiest of holy. This is where only the priest would talk to God once, twice a year. Yeah, and so they would go into this room and they would talk to God only. And the rest of the temple was for everyone else. But no one could go past there. And when Jesus was on the cross, he said the veil was torn. And that's what that means, is that that division was gone. It was God, the holiest of holy, and the people now together. And so to take up the cross means to do what Jesus did and to have, to do whatever it takes in your faith. Because we're faced with so many challenges, like something he always brings up is talking to people, God said, go talk to that person, and you're like, and just all these different things that God brings up, and you don't want to do it. And that's what Jesus is saying, take up your cross, is to do whatever it takes. Because he went and he got on the most terrible and one of the worst forms of torture in history to keep up with his faith. And he told this to his disciples, those are the ones he was speaking to, is take up your cross. And 11 of the 12 disciples died. Because of, they all died. But got killed. And so that's really terrible, but they took that message to heart to take up your cross and to even go to a deathbed for your faith. I'm not saying any of us are going to die, probably not, unless we go to Middle East or whatever. But to do whatever it takes now, to go talk to that person, to speak when it's time to speak, And so I think we just watered it down so much. To see the cross, it should be a conviction of yourself. To say, am I doing this? Am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing?
Good
am
job.
I doing everything I could be doing? Am I saying no to what God has called me to do? Am I just pushing that aside? It should be something that grabs a hold of you. And that's why I love this so much, is because it does that. I look at it every day, I put it on every day, and it's just should I be putting this on? Am I representing this well? Am I doing what I am supposed to be doing? And so instead of just a thing that we see as a symbol of Christianity, it should be something to us that grabs us by the heart and makes you emotional. You see what I'm saying?
Good job.
And so, yeah, that's what I got.